He looked at the water before him, wide, far. He knew it was a lake because he could see the opposite side with its hills and the colorful houses built on the slope, as well as a street which he knew led around the entire body of water. A soft spring breeze disrupted the surface which mirrored the blue sky above. It was spotted with fluffy white clouds that slowly moved from one end of the sky to the other. Dew sat on a bench, his legs drawn close to his body and arms slung around them. His gaze began to travel further, wanting to take every single impression he could get out of the colorful city before, the beautiful sky above, the reflecting water underneath, and the freshly green forest behind him. It would be considered quiet for everyone who were traveling along the road, but for him it was loud and it was real. Even the sound of the tiny waves hitting the stone which separated water from earth was picked up by his ears, so was the humming of insects who traveled from flower to flower over the water to be eaten by hungry fish or birds, and the rustling of branches with the little leaves which had just recently opened to their fullest. To him it was exciting, the mixture of old and new reawakened an adventurous spirit of him, but he knew he wouldn't follow it. Not now, at least. Now was the time to sit and adjust. The soft fabric of the jacket against his skin had irritated him at first, but the longer he wore it above the short-sleeved shirt, the more comfortable it felt. It didn't have him overheat in the warm rays shining down from the glowing orb in the sky, nor did it expose his arms he hadn't dared looking at even once. The same was the case with the trousers, which laid gently around his legs without highlighting them. Out of everything, the strangest feeling was how the long blonde hair felt on his nape and over one of his eyes. Almost every couple of seconds his hand quickly went up to move it, only for another strand to fall right back into the same spot. "How do you like it here?" Dew heard a voice from next to him. It was calm and deeper than he had remembered the clear one from the realm of the dead. He watched another little wave traveling until it lost itself in nowhere before answering, "It's different. I thought this place might be nice, even though it's February here. The season appears as if it's late spring." He heard people walk behind him on the path next to the road, chattering lively without taking any notice of the couple on the bench. They talk so differently, he noted. "Do you want to know what they said? I can teach you." His fingers intertwined while he nibbled on the inside of his lip. "Someday, maybe. Not now." He decided to lie, and the answer came immediately. "Of course." The sun was already beginning to set, the blue slowly turning into orange and yellow as it was on its way to hide behind the horizon line. "How long can I stay?" Dew wondered out loud, his face turned towards the light with his eyes closed. "As long as you want. The night lights will burn soon enough, and you can roam the streets without losing sight of where you are." "How practical." His eyes were caught by a long and thin pole in black with a cage placed on top. Street lanterns, that's what he learned they called them in some places, and they could offer a bit of the day during the night, just like candles or torches, but for longer and without smoke. Then he claimed, "The road must be nicer during the day. I want to continue." He didn't need to look up to know his company had stood up already. The shoes with the hard sole were strange to walk with, but no sharp rock or one of the glass shards scattered near some benches and their trash bins could harm his feet. At least that wouldn't disturb his sensory. "Do people still like to get drunk?" he wanted to know. "Yes, some things just never change." The other one seemed disappointed. "Did anything get better?" There was a pause before the answer came. "There is better medicine. More people can have access to a wealthy life. More things which are not harmful are accepted." "That's good." It felt like an eternity, even though it was less than an hour that had passed when the sun was already nothing more than a faint red memory in the distance. Darkness had fallen upon the lands. It was true. The lamps did glow, and they glowed stronger than he would have ever guessed. "They are like bigger stars in boxes," he observed, standing underneath one of the poles. "That's one way to look at it. Today some say that stars are even bigger than the earth we are walking on, but they are so far away they look tiny." "Fascinating." Dew looked up at the night sky, but he was shocked to find that it was a dark, dull mass with nothing but a white glowing circle hovering in it, so he asked, "Where did the stars go?" "Because we have so much light down here, the sky can't be seen like before," the other explained, perhaps looking up as well. "You could say they took the stars and placed them in boxes, and now the sky is emptier. That has fairy tale potential." There was a chuckle. "Not exactly. We would just have to go somewhere where there isn't as much light as here, maybe a field, forest, or hill. Would you like that?" his partner proposed. "I need that," he declared. The clusters of small yellow, white, and sometimes even red splotches below him reminded him of how small he was in the midst of this great earth. Still, he was here. Still, there was someone who cared enough about this singular person to get him to the top of a mountain, where there was a solid tower from which he could see the stars while leaning onto the railings or lay down on the icy ground. From there it was just like he remembered, thousands and thousands of tiny lights, some bigger and brighter, while some were smaller and duller, covering every spot above him, too many to be counted in a lifetime. "I wanted to invite you here during a meteor shower which was supposed to be on your birthday," another comment came. "I've already looked for the next date and it won't be far away." "My birthday?" he repeated, holding still for one moment from slowly wandering in circles to view every single angle there was to the sight. Now something else demanded his attention. The tall silhouette standing in the middle of the circular platform was only vaguely looking in his direction, with its body almost facing away from him. The figure was mostly defined by the long coat, with wide sleeves, as well as the black hair, which was longer than his torso, fluttering in the cold wind. The white light of the moon reflected in the pair of glasses sitting on his nose, hiding his eye, but from the glance Dew had risked hours ago he knew it was sparkling just like the stars above. "Yes, your birthday," the man replied. Dew had almost forgotten about the conversation already, having been drawn in by the strange but familiar figure. "How do you know when it is?" "Various kinds of research in various places. It's hard to describe, but now I know when you were born and how old you are now," the figure had answered, probably smiling. Another wind brushed past him, and suddenly the thin jacket wasn't as good as it was before. For the first time that day he shivered, and it wouldn't stop. Noticing the way Dew crossed his arms and bending as if to curl up, his partner didn't hesitate for a moment and brushed off the cape to hold it out towards him. He stared at it, unmoving, until his eyes went back to the person holding it. The silhouette of the body vaguely resembled that of the one displayed in his memory, but it was different, more defined, more masculine. It was hard for him to believe that it really was the same person. Looking back at the cloak, he finally took it to protect himself. The piece of clothing was heavy and almost reached down to the floor when he wore it. The warmth it emitted into his body was so similar to the one he felt through touch. It was as if the cold didn't exist, apart from his unprotected head, of course. Dew wanted more. "What day is it?" he asked, going to the opposite side once again to look at the glow from the city once again, and passing by the other person, closer than before. "Today is the 20th day of February. Your birthday was 6 days ago." Dew leaned over the railings, placing his knee on the lower bar out of the two. "Can you come over here?" His eyes were still fixed on the point in the distance, while the shadow of the other appeared 1/2 meter next to him. Never closer, but never much further away either. "This is where we just were, right?" he asked while pointing into the direction of the light. "That's right." Dew hummed in acknowledgement. Without moving, the other one's hands came into his view, which were loosely closed around the railings to lean onto it. On the right side he could still see the shimmer of metal. His own were empty. "Do you know where my ring is?" The question cost him more courage than he would have guessed, but why should anyone have this possession? He didn't even have anything to be identified as a body shortly after he perished. "I do," his company answered to his surprise, "and I also have the necklace. Do you want them back?" Dew hesitated. He couldn't tell why. After all, it was supposed to be the person he wrote about in the book, and that person had made an overall caring impression towards him. But there was this other part, the one which only displayed the hurt. An overwhelming majority had been nothing more than an illusion, about that he was sure. Still, it was so deeply engraved into his mind that he couldn't bring himself to overlook it. Even worse, some of it had been true. The gore, the pain, both physically and mentally. And how far would it go now? Before he could answer, the other said, "You can take your time or simply decline. You could also take them back and forget the symbolism. I won't stop you. I can take off my ring and throw it into the lake if you wish for it to happen. I want them." After he decided it out loud, he was confused himself because it had come out of nowhere, the same way he had taken the glowing being's hand to look into his own memories. The silhouette next to him opened up a hand and directed it towards him without in the least touching him. Dio viewed the item displayed on the palm. A ring. It was the same size, had the same engravings of a cat, and the same tiny imperfections everywhere. Dio wanted to take it, but as he was reaching out as well, the image of his hand being seized and pulled with the rest of him flashed through his mind. The other, noticing the sudden stop in motion, turned around the hand while holding the ring in between the thumb and index to drop it into his palm instead. He held it for a moment, searching it for any strange signs, before sliding it onto his finger again to figure nothing had changed. And the necklace. The person reached up to the neck, lifting a loop over the head and holding the second object before him as well. "It's empty," Dio noticed. "Would you like it to be full again?" He eyed the sharp gem, which would have the same color as the water in the grey realm if there were sunlight. "Would that mean I could see your presence with it again?" "It could be. It could also just be a fun color without any use but to be an accessory," the other proposed. "I want it to be the first." Before him the gem filled up with color as if blood was being poured into it while a light was being kept in its center. The necklace was given into his possession for him to put on as well. "How long will it stay like this?" he wanted to know, twisting the hard part between his fingers, feeling the warmth. "For eternity," the reply came in an instant. "And how long will I stay like this?" "Until you grow tired of it." "I'm immortal now," Dio concluded. "It might sound unbelievable, but you've always been as a mortal could be. Your soul can't disperse itself out of loss of joy in your existence as it should, which is a rarity, but it can happen. I'd heavily doubt you'd be here without this condition." "I've been dead for a very long time, haven't I?" "Yes." He stared back into the distance, but without the intention of exploring the sight. He wanted to feel his own new body in the cold environment with the ever-changing wind, the layers upon layers of clothes, and his hair moving without his will. It felt real, and he'd almost say it felt good. His other hand twisted and turned the ring on his finger, and it felt real. The knot of the necklace was lightly pressing against the skin of his nape, and it felt comforting. "I am not alive, but I can exist like this in a living world," he recounted what had been told to him before he had left the endless realm of the dead. "That's right. And I can do everything that I was capable of doing before I died," he wanted to assure himself. "For the most part. Do you want that?" He remembered the houses he had seen, the people he had heard, the warmth he had felt, and he was aware of the person next to him, the one who offered all of this to him without asking for anything in return, and wouldn't even deny him eternal death if he wished for it. He had a choice, one without any outside pressure, and only with the consequences he was responsible for. Dio turned around, letting go of the railing, and stepping a bit further towards the center to get away from the black abyss. The other one's gaze followed him, but without moving from the spot. He wanted to be sure before choosing. He wanted to know what the other thought. So he asked, "What would you do if I told you I don't want this existence?" "Then I will send you back to the ghost realm where you are free to move through the entire area without being restricted to the lake alone," his partner answered matter-of-factly. Then he continued, "And if I tell you I don't want to exist at all?" There was a short moment of silence before the answer came a little more hesitantly. "I would do you the favor and remove your consciousness from your soul. because none of them can exist on their own. Your consciousness would fade away immediately, and your soul would merge with the rest of souls without hosts. Dew took a deep breath in, the cold traveling into his inside. Good, then I know what I want. There was something he knew he wanted to do. He turned to look at the person who was now leaning against the railing with the lower back, balancing on one heel while the hand still held onto the bar. Calm, non-threatening. It could go right. His mind was made up, but his new body didn't listen. But at some point it would, he already declared it to himself. I prefer this here, Dew stated, trying to look directly into the eye of the person. Not a single movement went through the body, not even a twitch. Waiting for something to happen, he just stood there, not knowing what to expect. I'm honestly glad that's what you decided to do. Finally the reaction came, the horned head sinking down, perhaps to hide his emotion towards him. That's it? That's all you have to say? He responded almost angrily, even though he didn't mean it. I would like to do more, but I don't know if I can. The hybrid gestured with his hands, and Dew feared for him to fall backwards. Then tell me, what would you like to do that you think you can't? Many things. Laugh, maybe cry, sigh in relief while grabbing my heart, sink down to my knees, kiss your hand or cheek, hug you. But I don't know if you'd want that, they replied, nervously shifting from one foot to the other. I'd like that, Dew confessed after a second. The last part, I mean. He stood there, facing the other, waiting for them to move. It appeared the other was doing the same, so he slightly gestured to them with his arms he had put inside the sleeves of the cloak, and finally they reacted, getting probably to his feet and hesitantly approaching him. Just a few centimeters before him, he stopped again. Are you sure? His partner asked. Instead of answering, he placed his hands around the other's waist, pulling him towards him in the process and leaning his blond head into the gap between the collarbones and chin. Slowly the person began to move as well, hugging him gently around the shoulders without squeezing him, but only after a moment in the embrace he felt the hand move upwards into his hair, holding Dew's head tighter to her chest, while his warm lips softly pressed against his temples as if to kiss him there. And he enjoyed the embrace. It was warm, it was soft, it was safe. He was safe, for once. That's the end of the first book. I already have the third written and am currently on the second. If you got this far, holy shit, thank you. I hope there was something enjoyable in it. Yeah. Good night or something.